في حد لسه جاي؟ اوكي. here.
بفضل بفضل كده ناقص واحد بس مش عارف فاهمني لو واحد ناس كتير خلاص عرفت لا مش مشكلة مش كده بالنسبة لي جزء هنا هي مش كده So I'd like to introduce to you of course, my friend and of course the Dr. Hussein, who enlightens us through his talk, delightful talk about Nubian, about the history of Nubian, bringing actually and just shedding a light about the history that not quite a lot of people know about, including Egyptians themselves, by the way. If we go all the way to the north, there's not much that they know about the history of Nubia. So, and since we are here in the land of Nubia, the land of gold, that we try actually in the coming hour to have an immersion into the history of Nubia and what is actually the history and the culture if it's not incorporated with art and drawing and painting and the music. So I also request from Dr. Hussein to play for us like also a piece of music, because of course it talks about the yearning. Most of the music, it talks about the yearning of returning to the land of Nubia. So I will leave you now for like the coming hour, and to the gentleman here who has devoted his life with his family for the civilization and the revival for the history of Nubia. Thank you, Habib.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Abu Simbel. My name is Hussein Kobara. This is my name. And this is my family name, actually, Kobara. And actually, I'm born here in Abu Simbel. I hope you enjoyed your trip so far. I'm welcoming you on behalf of my people. I hope you enjoyed your trip in Egypt here, in Aswan, Nubia. What I'm going to do with you, ladies and gentlemen, in just 1 hour today, will be about the Nubian culture, people, history, all together in one talk. And that will be about 40 to 45 minutes. And then we'll have time for discussions. If you have any question, we can go through. And later, maybe we can also play some music for you. Yes. And the technique I'm going to use is try to give you an overview about the Nubian culture by using some photos here. Some of those photos actually gave to me from a very good friend, an Egyptian photographer who was one of the best ever I've met in Cairo. And this man he dedicated himself to make this photographic documentary about not only Nubia, all over Egypt. He was traveling around here and there and taking photos from time to time. He started this 1930s. And when I met him, he was 80 years old. So he was a beautiful man one of the best actually. And I met him in that exhibition. He was making that exhibition about the African relation between Egypt, Nubia, and Africa. And he was using these photos. And suddenly he shows one of those pictures I'm going to show you today. That was one of these Nubian villages, and it was my house, actually. And I thought it maybe looks like mine, because all Nubian houses actually look similar if you go in detail. So after he finished his talk, I went to him. I was just, having this, talking to him and chatting, and I asked him, I said, one of those beautiful pictures about the Nubian houses look like my house, I said. And he said, where are you from? And I said, I'm from a village called Abu Simbel. My village was just facing this temple. Have you been to the temple?
Yes.
Yeah, in front of that temple, it was only 100-meter wide river, and the village was on the other side of that temple. And I told him I'm from a village, a very small village called Abu Simbel. I said, oh, he said, yes, I visited Abu Simbel several times. I said, oh, yeah. When? He said, that goes very old back, 1930s. Maybe you were still, maybe not even your mother, maybe God didn't give a birth for you. And he was laughing with me and I said, okay, can you show me that picture? He said, yes. And he started to show me. We were only 2 or 3 persons there. And I said, yes, this one. It looks like my house. He said, okay, wait. And he opened his notebook and he started to talk about that picture. And because he was making this documentary, writing all the names actually in there. And he said, this house actually relates to those people, and start to tell the names. And one of those names was my father's name. Oh my, it was beautiful. And he was so kind, very kind man. And later he decided to give me some of these photos. And I started to show these pictures everywhere here in Nubia, because it was beautiful house. So this is the type I'm going to use. I'm going to use these photos and tell some stories about each of these photos to give you an idea about what we are talking about, this culture, people, history, all together. And starting with this, ladies and gentlemen, this photo, actually, which shows the continent of Africa. This is Africa. And here, this rectangle shows where Nubian people are living here, by the Red Sea and the Mediterranean. Here, Nubian people living in these two countries we have here, Egypt and Nubia. Just to show in close, this is Egypt, by the Red Sea, Mediterranean, and here supposed to be Sudan. But actually, the real name for Sudan was this one, Nubia, which took place, that the new name took place very late in the 20th century. But the real name which you're going to find if you open any historical book is this, which relate to those three letters, N, U, and B, which can be pronounced as Na or No, which means gold in ancient Egyptian and ancient Nubian language. The name Nubia means golden land. The reason is this area, ladies and gentlemen, till today is famous for by its gold mines. If you visited any museum, including an Egyptian one here, Egyptian Museum, one of the best, of course, collection there, or Khartoum Museum, London, Paris, Louvre, Metropolitan New York City, or Boston, in the United States, all these museums always have one of the best sections, the Egyptian or Chinese. Those are the best, of course. I've visited most of them. And if you go there, or maybe you have seen these beautiful golden treasures travel to the United States several times, King Tut treasures. Actually, those golden treasures actually relate to this place. From here, they got the gold, and they start to make these beautiful golden treasures there. All right? And the reason is, in here, you may find that gold on the surface of that land, not deep. You don't have to, dig very deep to get that gold. This is it. And when we go forward, this is the area of the Nubian kingdoms created by the River Nile here, starting very close to Luxor. Have you been to Luxor?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Only 5 kilometers to the south from Luxor, there is a village there called Al-Wahda village, which means Al-Wahda, when we translate it into English, it becomes the unification or unified village. The reason is those Nubians start to marry from those Copts, making these big extended families, and they decided later to change the name of the village from its original name to this new name, which is unification of those two nations came together, married from each other. From that small village down to Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, this whole area was just one big kingdom. Through history, 3 different kingdoms have been created in the same area. The most ancient one was called, the capital of the most ancient one was called Napata. The second kingdom's capital was Meroe, and the last one was Dumla. Later, those pharaohs or Nubian pharaohs start to move up to Aswan, and from there to Luxor. The 25th dynasty in the Egyptian history, those are the Nubian era when they were ruling the whole land here, making very big empire there in that place. And when we talk about people in this land, those are the kind of people we're going to find. You already been to Abu Simbel temple, and also you may saw maybe another way of showing Nubians in this African profile, Negro profile. They showed them like that in here in Abu Simbel temple as prisoners or captured in a battle, tied in their hands and sitting on their knees, and this is how they were showing their enemies or a battle capture just like that. Ramses II was fighting against Nubians, and this is why he showed those Nubians that way. But in other temples, you're going to find those Nubians shown as in very respectful way. In this, particularly in this picture, actually, they show those Nubians coming to make offering. They are offering these round yellow things. This is the gold. The Nubian gold being offered in that temple in front of that god or goddess in that temple. This is one of the best things a man can do during his life, making offering himself. Because when you go to any other temples, you will find only the king can do that. But in here, those Nubians having these layers above their heads, Those are the chiefs of these Nubians coming to make this offering inside the temple itself in that century. So these beautiful stories, actually, I've been exposed to these nice and beautiful stories from every member in my family. One of them was my beloved grandma. Who is this one? This one. This is my grandmother, the big mama. She was so beautiful. Every evening before we go to bed, we were running to her when we were kids to have that last story. And she was smart to put all the names of kings, queens, animals, places, temples in her stories. From time to time, she was coming intentionally, putting, for example, telling the rest of the story from 2 or 3 nights before, and starting by asking us about the names she already told us maybe 2 or 3 nights before, just to examine us if we are keen and taking care of these names and memorizing it. And if we failed to tell the story or the name of that king, we are in a big problem. She said, okay, no story for tonight. Go away. Go away. Easy, kids. You have no story for tonight. And because of that, before we go to her, we will always take care to ask each other. You have names. Okay, give me the names you have. I'm going to give you what I have. So we were exchanging names before we go to her. So if she asked us accidentally, we can answer her. The other guy here, who was one of the best people I have met or have in my life, is this man. This man was a principal of my elementary school. And this guy was the only Nubian person in that school. All other teachers were being sent by the government of Egypt to come and teach us in Arabic language. We, as kids, and everybody in that community, only speak Nubian. And that was a big problem for us as kids to communicate with these teachers. They were coming and talking maybe for 40 minutes, and we understand nothing. We are just, for every one of us, it was just blah, blah, blah. Because Arabic speaking is very difficult if you don't know how that look like. And one of those teachers was aggressive. He was making all his efforts to force us to speak his language, which was difficult, of course, for us to do. And because of that, if he caught any one of us speaking Nubian in class with his, friend or the next one who's sitting with him, we, and not all we, everybody in that class is in a very big mess, a big problem, because that man was coming to punish every one of us just to, force us to not speak Nubian in class. Wow. So when we were screaming and crying, and this man was the only, hope we have. This man was a savior, leaving his office, coming to our class, sending that teacher off the class, and just to make ease, tell a beautiful story or sing a beautiful song for us. And he was so beautiful, man. One day he came and said, kids, it will never go like this. It is difficult, I know. I was one day sitting on one of these desks, and I know the troubles you have already, but believe me, the only way to go through is learn Arabic. This is the only way. Because not in here, everywhere when you go, you're going to face this problem. But sir, we don't know how to do it. We don't know what to do. I said, no, never mind. Just promise me you're going to do all your best. I'm going to help you. We said, yes, no problem. He said, okay, just 1 hour before the class starts, you may come to the school, and then I'm going to teach you how to do this. And we decided to do that. The next morning we were there. He started, instead of writing on that blackboard or using any other ways of teaching, he started to sing songs. This is what a beautiful way. We start to dance with him, singing with him, and oh, great. But he made these songs in a very special way. The half of that song is in Arabic, and the rest is in Nubian. So we were repeating after him, and maybe 5 to 10 minutes later, he said, okay, can you sing it for me? Yes. Do you understand what you say? No. No, maybe the Nubian side, yes, but the other side we don't. He said, okay, if you understand the Nubian side, it is a translation for the other side. Wow, it became like a piece of cake, ladies and gentlemen. From that day, we learned how to say good morning to our teachers, how to say, I want to go to the bathroom, for example, I want to drink water, things like that. Sentences we need, phrases we need in a daily basis. That was the way he taught us how to communicate with these teachers and how to deal with this Arabic, language. From that day, ladies and gentlemen, this man, not only this, he started to teach us the basics of English and French. He was speaking 4 different languages fluently. And from this man, we learned everything actually. Not only him, but I'm talking about the whole community. And having people like those dedicating themselves for us, it was a blessing from God. Through those, we learned everything about this environment, this beautiful river we have in front of our houses, all this green area with these kind of trees, all these sailing boats and all other kind of means we have there. These beautiful houses by the riverside, created there by the people here. And this is one of those houses, and this is an inner design for one of those Nubian houses. If you go here in this facility or outside in this town, you're going to discover that or notice that houses have these domes above. These domes, like this one. So in Nubian architecture, we have domes and vaults, all made out of mud bricks. And they were creating these domes out of mud bricks, but the walls are made out of Nubian sandstone. But to make it in a very special way, they were making these walls very thick. You see how thick it is? Very thick. Intentionally they were doing this because this is the only way to prevent that heat, this hell outside. The sun gets very hot here in summer, and to prevent these rooms and keep inside that room cool enough in summer, they were painting it with this white color and making it very thick walls. So maybe inside that room gets 10 to 15 degrees minus than outside temperature. This is how they were doing this. And after men built the house, paint it with this white color, they were leaving these houses in and out for women and girls to come and make it like this. And this is the picture I introduced me to that photographer. And this is my house. Yes. So, men were building the house and women were coming and making this beautiful color from a house to the second, to the third, to the fourth, moving from in that village, taking maybe 2 or 3 weeks to change the beautiful image that this color for the whole village. And they were doing this 3 times every year. So we had 45 Nubian villages in here, in this Nubian side, and the Egyptian side, from Abu Simbel to us. All those villages were along the way on both banks of the river, and all of them looked like this. That was a beautiful picture. Unfortunately, all those houses today are gone under that lake. You already saw the lake, this ugly lake. Yeah. So the same guy who gave me this one, he is the one who gave me this too. And he told me the story behind. He said, 1936, I was visiting Abu Simbel temple for the first time, and while I was coming out from that boat, arrived there, I saw this lady, and the whole family around her are crying. And he said, I thought something bad happened here. Somebody maybe died or something. And he asked those people, what's going on here? What's happening? What's happening? Those people are so sad like that. They told him, no, never mind. This always happens. A family comes to say goodbye to one of those, men or kids, or going to leave the family behind and going somewhere else like Aswan, Cairo, Alexandria, or going to Khartoum city to work there. That was 1936. The reason is these farmers, Nubian, most of them were farmers. What happened is the new government in Egypt decided to make dams in Aswan. The first dam created in 1902, but have been improved several times to make it high enough to keep more water. One of them was 1934. 1934, when they made that dam high enough, they were creating a disaster here. The water was flooding everything people have here, including these, water wheels, including all those, let's say farms, palm trees, houses, everything. So farmers start to leave families behind, go somewhere else, find another job, try to send some money to their families and create or build new houses above hills and mountains, and that was the reason. I'm telling this story because my father was doing exactly the same. My father was working in Cairo, leaving the whole family, including my grandma and my mother and everybody. We were here, and he was coming to visit us every 3 years. Yeah, he can visit us every year. He was, trying to save this, vacation time to come once and stay for enough time with us. Because traveling between Cairo and Abu Simbel here, it wasn't that easy. You have to come take a train from Cairo to Aswan. It takes 2 days. From Aswan to Abu Simbel to this village, it was taking 4 days to reach here. 4 days, so 6 days already gone from his vacation. So he has to stay only maybe 2, 3 days and go back again. Because of that, he was staying for 3 years in Cairo and come just for 1 month of vacation to visit us and stay for 2 more weeks here. This is the reason. Because of that, women in this Nubian community were the decision makers. They became very strong, taking care of everything in that village because their husbands are not there anymore. Only raising these beautiful kids and take care of those old folks with them, like my grandma and other old folks. So I was one day one of those kids. These women were taking care of us. My mother was leaving me with my grandma and these neighbors and go every morning, very early, going to this farming area by the river, almost 5 to 6 miles away, working there the whole day, and in the end bring us some vegetables, something to eat. And she was coming by the sunset. So, and this was the reason. And when we see, this is why women became very strong. And my mother was here in one of these fields. This is a water wheel driven with these 2 cows. And the farmers walking here the whole day. And my mother was one of those farmers farming there. I made a book about these water wheels because it was so important to, to, to preserve this culture and keep it to these new generations because we don't have anymore these water wheels. All of them gone under that lake. All of them, hundreds of these water wheels already submerged in that water. Because of that, I decided to visit north of Sudan and Upper Egypt, where they still have some kind of these water wheels. And while I was making this book and collecting information and coming to verify it with these old people who already know about it, I've discovered that running these water wheels or owning these water wheels in our villages was completely different. In Upper Egypt, in north of Sudan, if you are a rich person or a rich family, you can have your own water wheel, no problem. You can buy one. You can bring those people who can create this and just pay them money. That's it. Or maybe rent somebody to run it for you and just give him money. That's it. But in our villages, no, you are not allowed to do that. Even if you are the richest person there. What's the option there? The only option was you can start creating one of these parts of this water wheel. For example, you can start creating or building this part of the water wheel and open share for everybody in that neighborhood to become a partner with you. This was the only way. And this partnership or this, let's say, kind of company, has always a maximum number. And that maximum number of partnerships is depending on the capacity of this water wheel of irrigation. And this water wheel can irrigate 24 acres. 24 acres is a very wide area. And I was asking, how do we run this to irrigate 24 acres? Only by these cows. They said, this is the only way. We have to run it continuously, day and night, 24/7. All right? And I was asking, why 24? If you have enough area, let's say we have 30 acres there, can you do that? They said, no. It's 24 and we have to stop there. Why? They said, because this is a time sharing. 24 hours, 24 partners. Everyone has just 1 hour per day. This is how they were doing this. And they were dividing these partners into 4 shifts. In each shift, you have 6 persons. Putting women always in daytime shifts. We have 2 daytime shifts and 2 nighttime shifts. And I do know that because my mother was one of those, who are in the morning shift. And this is the morning shift. Okay, this is the morning shift in one of these farms. 4 of them are men, which means 2 in the same farm, in the same shift, are women. And this is what you can do during the evening, or if you have enough time to do something else, you can play music. This man here playing one of the most ancient musical instruments ever in history. And this musical instrument, we called it Kisir, Kisir. And I'm going to show it to you because I have it here. I have one here. This is Kisir, ladies and gentlemen. It has 5 strings. Playing this musical instrument, you have to put your fingers behind these 5 strings like this. This is why it's only 5 strings here. You have to put these 5 strings with your fingers like that, and then using a plastic or a wooden pick, you have to play here. And while you are playing here, you can lift your fingers somehow so you can make that melody. Let me show you how. Thank you. This is how to do that. And as I told you, it's called, in our language, it's called kisir. When those Arabians came from Cairo to Nubian, and they found this beautiful instrument everywhere, in every house maybe. And they said to us, what is this? They called them, this is kisir, which became in Arabic, qithar. This is an Arabic name for kisir, qithara. When those Arabians later went to Spain, qithara became, guess what? Guitar. Yes, so this is the grandmother of guitar, ladies and gentlemen. Not only this, we have another one, we call it kisir dud. Has 14 strings instead of 5. But because of that, and because it's so big and heavy, you can't do it like that. You can't hold it like this. You have to put it down and use both hands, one from the back and one from the front. This is how to do that. Okay, the Egyptians were so smart. Out of that, kisir dud, they made what we call today harp. And we have it already painted in one of those Egyptian temples. So we have both guitar, harp, originated here. This is the guitar, and the other one is the harp. Okay, so when you have something like this, ladies and gentlemen, happening or going on, taking place in one of these villages, it becomes like an open invitation for everyone in that neighborhood to come and share. This is what we have in our villages. We do everything actually together. This is a part of our culture. We work together in the farm, women with men. We go to the same class, a boy next to a girl sitting in the same desks. When we party together. This is the Nubian style of life, which came to end, unfortunately, this year, 1899. 1882, British colony came and colonized many countries in Africa, including Egypt. Egypt, 1882, was a very big kingdom. The king was here in Cairo. His title was the King of Egypt and Nubian. And Darfur is a part of Sudan, the west of Sudan. Okay, so these British, 1899, decided to put one representative in Cairo and another one in Khartoum. They came to the king, please allow us to put another representative in Khartoum. And he said, okay, do it, no problem. He said, to do that, unfortunately, we have to divide your kingdom into two countries because we are not allowed to put two representatives in one country. And the king said, are those two countries will be under my rule? They said, yes, okay, in that case, no problem, do it. So those British came and made this line, dividing this kingdom into two countries. One up in the north here became as it was before Egypt, but the other one, instead of Nubian, became Sudan. This is a new name came to the history by the British, 19th of January, 1899. And they used to put this name, they took this name from, this is a geographical term actually. Sudan is a geographical term. Okay, and as you see here, Nubian area became parted. 1/3 of Nubia became a part of Egypt, and 2/3 of Nubia became the northern Sudan today. My family, my parents were living here in Abu Simbel, this house. But my uncle family were living here in this one, which is called Wadi Halfa. It was a big town in the north of Sudan. My uncle was living there. He was running the airport of Wadi Halfa. And 1960, the government of Egypt took us from here away to Asun because they created another dam in Asun. And this is another story. So 1980, I decided to come back. When I was making these plans, my mother told me, you must go and visit your uncle family because they're still living there. From 1964 till 1980, we haven't seen each other. So I said, yes, Mama, I'm going to do that. I'm going to visit them. I came to Abu Simbel. I was in front of that temple, watching this boat passing by in front of us and going to Wadi Halfa. And I was asking people, how can I take that boat? I need to take that boat to go to Wadi Halfa. They said, no way. You have to go back to Aswan. From there you take that boat because it doesn't stop. Sorry. Prayer time. Okay, so they said you have to go back to Aswan to take that boat from there, but you have to have a passport, you have to have a visa, because when you go there, they will ask you about this, and then they can allow you to go to visit your uncle in Sudan, which is another country. Because my uncle family became Sudanese, and my parents became Egyptians, because this line came here, dividing these people into these two groups. All right, so I said, oh my God, to go back there, we didn't have this road connection between Aswan and Abu Simbel. We didn't have that road connection, 1980. So they said you have to take the boat, the smaller boat from Abu Simbel to Aswan, which takes 3 days to reach there. And from there you take that other boat and come back to Wadi Halfa, which takes 4 days. Come on, a week, I said. No way, it's only 60 kilometers, I can walk. It's literally, I can just walk, it may take 2-3 hours, no problem. They said, no, you will be in danger. They may shoot you down. Who's those? They said, the army, the Egyptian and the Sudanese army are guarding this line, preventing anyone think to cross that line. And they shoot anybody. Oh my God. Is there any other option? I said, yes, they said. You can fly from Abu Simbel to Cairo. From Cairo, fly back to Khartoum. From Khartoum, take a train back to Wadi Halfa. Wow. Oh my God. How long does that take? I said. They said, the flights may take 5 hours. But the problem is, the train from Khartoum to Wadi Halfa sometimes takes 2 weeks. Oh, why? They said this is one of the oldest fashion of trains. Very old one, always broken. Come on. 1981, I decided to make a festival, a Nubian festival, in front of Abu Simbel temple. And I made an application to the government of Egypt, asking them to allow me to make that festival and bring people, Nubian people from Cairo, Alexandria, Aswan, Komumbo, to bring them here and also invite our families from Sudan so they can come and stay with us for 2 weeks here. And they gave me that approval. And I was running that festival. Today we call it Sun Festival. Twice a year on February and in October. For 7 years I was running this. And I start to meet the governor of Aswan and all other governmental peoples like those, very high position people coming from Cairo to attend this festival. And I start to open the discussions with them about this. Please make a police border between these two towns so we can visit our families and allow them to visit us. We can visit them too. And they were only promising and promising. Only 2011 became possible. Since 1981. All right, today, ladies and gentlemen, there is a road connection between these two towns. We have a police border there. It takes just 1 hour to get there. I take my car from here and I go there. It takes 1 hour. That's it. Back to the story. Here, 3 years later, from that year, 1899, 3 years later, the government of Egypt finished this dam, Aswan, 1902. But they decided to improve that dam to make it high enough to keep more water, 1912 and 1934. And every time they made an improvement in this dam, they were making a disaster, and photo can talk. This is the kind of disaster they're making to us. Flooding everything people have here. All the kind of crops you have in danger, flooded with water. Houses even, temples. I don't know if you visited Fila temple in Aswan. Not yet. Fila temple is one of the great temples there. Unfortunately, for 30 years, it was flooded with water. Finally, when UNESCO came and saved Abu Simbel temple, they also saved this temple and put it in a new location. Okay? So, what happened? People said, no, we're going to stay. Wherever it is, we're going to build our houses above hills and mountains, and to do that, any man who can able to travel, like my father, they decided to leave their families behind and go somewhere else like Cairo, Alexandria, Khartoum, Europe, working there and sending money to their families and build these beautiful houses above hills and mountains. Men did their job, built the house, painted with this white color, leaving the coloring for women as usual. But women came and said, sorry, we're not going to color these houses anymore. Why? They said, because we want to show these stupid people in Egypt or in Sudan that Nubian people are not happy anymore. And that was, ladies and gentlemen, the first kind of protesting against dams came from women. I love that. Yeah, that was the case. All right, so 1960, 26 years later, even before you finish your job, your home, a new government came to Egypt after a big revolution took place in Cairo. 1952, that revolution, 1960, they decided to make this dam, the high dam, only 10 kilometers away from the first dam. And 1964, they decided to send us many boats to take us from our place, from our villages. This is the boats came to us, and those are the Nubians waiting for these boats and backed up everything they have. Have been backed up, and finally, when these boats arrived, they start to shipping these furniture, domestic animals, and everything they have in these boats. Finally, 18th of October 1964, we had our final trip from here to here. From there by cars to Komumbo, which is 20 kilometers to the north from Aswan. From Komumbo, they took us 15 kilometers in the desert of that place. In the midst of that desert, they were creating these ugly houses for us. Many families decided not to stay there. Many families decided to take their wives and kids to Cairo, to Alexandria, to Aswan, to both side and area. And some other families decided to stay, including my parents. And they decided to make this place livable, whatever it takes. For that, we start to work hard and help our families. And I was sending money to my mother because my father passed away after 5 years. And I had to, with my brother, work in Cairo. And from Cairo, I went to Saudi Arabia. And I was sending money to my mother. And she was doing like everybody else, making this place a better place, a livable place. And the result was this. This is the same village after 10 years. The government of Egypt later came and supplied us with clean water, domestic, roads, schools, hospitals, and everything we need there became available later. It took 10 years, of course, to do that. And during this, ladies and gentlemen, UNESCO was saving the beautiful temples of Abu Simbel and all other Nubian monuments around here. And we were walking and living with these, Egyptologists and engineers who came to save Abu Simbel temple because they were living with us in the same village. And across the river every morning, going to the temple site to work there and come back in the evening. So we had the time to discuss with them, what about us? What about people? What about this heritage? What about culture? Isn't this a job of UNESCO? They said, sorry, here we are to save the temples only. But if the government of Egypt gave us an order to help you, it's a fraction. Of course, we can do that. But we are not allowed to do that now. So when we turned to the government people asking them that, they said, sorry, we don't know how high the water will be. We're going to take you to a safer place. Temporary, you stay there. When the water level is settled, you can come back here. That was the decision, of course, they took. Because of that, we thought this culture is in danger. This Nubian culture is in danger, and we need to take action. And those are the two topics we were dealing with. The first one is the environment, which they took us to, which is a desert instead of riverside. And the education system, I told you how difficult it was for me as a kid to being forced to learn in Arabic, not my mother tongue. And we already finished this topic, and we are already working on this. So, because of that, we start to take discussions, brainstormings, and try to preserve, well, how can we preserve this? Finally, we came with a proposal of preserving the language. This is the most important thing. Because of that, we established what we call Nubian Studies Center as a non-governmental organization, which means it's not supported by the state or the government of Egypt. It's only supported by people. All right? So we started in Cairo and decided to work with people there, collecting information from them and to make what is the possibilities of work we can do. And finally, we start to publish books about every topic we have there. The first book was made by my eldest brother, Dr. Mokhtar, who was a professor in Cairo University. He is 2 years older than me. And the title of the book is The Nubian Language, How We Can Preserve It, How We Can Rewrite It. And unfortunately, he passed away before he finished his book. He was linguist. And because of that, I was the accountant of the family. I stopped accounting. I left my career and I started from scratch, learning about the linguist. And then I made my master in linguist and I finished his book. And I put his name and his photo on that book. And when we go inside that book, just to show you how we write Nubian language, this is how it goes. It goes from left to right. And if you took a very close look to that inscriptions, you will discover that it looks very similar to Greek. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks very similar to Greek because using Greek alphabet started in Egypt. Egyptians were so smart, they started to write down their ancient language using Greek alphabet, and this is what we call Coptic. Yeah, and we took the same experience from these Copts, and we start to make some kind of modifications, adding some other letters from what we call Merwatic letters. Merwatic letters means a very old type of writing in Nubia found in a place called Merowe, one of these three capitals I showed you before. Merowe, Merwatic letters. This is the Merwatic letter, this is the Merwatic letter, and this is the Merwatic letter, and the rest are Greek. So if you know how to read Greek, you will easily read Nubian because it's very easy. Maskagro Wo Iskiriyungo, which means welcome, dear guests. And those are other type of books I made in the same field of research. A textbook 1, textbook 2, grammar book, and then this is a guidebook for teachers. I decided to make this guidebook with CDs so every mother can teach her kids how to read and write and tell them beautiful stories and sing them these beautiful songs we had when we were kids. And I made these CDs with this, musical instruments singing in it, and they can do that exactly. So this is how we do that. And every summer holiday for 4 months, we open this Nubian Study Center in every town where Nubian have their kids, and so they can send their kids, or mother can bring her kids with her. And we give them lessons how to read and write, and we also give them this book as a present so they can use it at home. And this is the last book I made. This is a linguist book with a friend of mine he's a professor in Khartoum University. We decided to make this book, and this book is in English and Arabic all together. In this side, it's in English, this one. English this side, translated into Arabic this side. And in between, we decided to put Nubian lessons sandwiched in between. Okay, and also vocabulary is here in this book, like a very little dictionary here, Arabic, English, and Nubian all together in one place. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, please be ready because I'm going to turn the lights for you on, and then I come back. Okay? Thank you. Yeah, you can see me now. Thank you. Okay, any questions?
Could you say something in Nubian so we hear what it sounds like?
Yeah, when you want to say, for example, good morning, we say maskafi sho, which means good morning for plural, but maskafiyona for the person, one person. When you want to say, for example, how do you do? Maskagna. For a plural, maskagro. This is how we do the Nubian language here.
So what is the size of the Nubian population in Egypt?
Well, the Nubian population is almost 5 million here today. But in Sudan, 14 million. Because, 2/3 or maybe more than 2/3 is in Sudan, actually. But because Sudan is already passing with a very tough time this time, they have 2 years now for civil war there, or the army are fighting each other. So many of those Nubians came to us because most of them have, families here. So they came here to Egypt. Some of them living with us here, some in Aswan, some in Cairo, and this is how it goes.
What is the situation with Nubian language and culture in Sudan?
Actually, in Sudan is better because language are always I'm talking about a linguist. When we study language or language actually for a group of people, we always take in our mind the area or situation in that, let's say, the environment, the language like a person, like a fish in a water. You have to consider everything around. So that language started and how it grows. The problem in Egypt is the government took us from this environment next to the river to a desert, and that affected a lot in the language itself, because everything had been, shifted in a different situation, a different environment, a different type of livings in around here. We were living here with birds. We went there and we find only scorpions and snakes. Come on, how dangerous it is. This is what happened. But in Sudan, only 15 villages have been moved like we did, because that dam, when it's created in Asun, the lake extended inside Sudanese border for almost 150 kilometers. So 15 villages have been affected there. But the rest, which almost 120, still there by the riverside. And because of that, the language is still very strong in the Nubian side in Sudan. Maybe a very long story, but it is. Thank you. Any other questions?
Is there prejudice and discrimination towards Nubians in Egypt?
I can say yes and no. It was yes in 1930s when those Nubians start to leave their villages and go to these big cities, know nothing about how to communicate with people there speaking different languages, have different customs and different culture, different kind of, everything was different, of course. So in the beginning, those elders, they face this kind of mocking them, when they walk in the street, they have turbans, they have these galabis, and they walk and they speak different language and so. But later, these people start to discover that those kind of people are very smart and kind and honest, and they start to, of course, these people start to walk in these palaces and in these, because kingdom, it was a kingdom that time, and in these with British and French and Italians and all other European languages there, who took those Nubians in their houses, using them as drivers or cook or maybe a servant. They discovered those are very honest people, and this, let's say, this type of life which they had start to change, and people start to respect them, respecting these older Nubians who already started there. When I went to Cairo with my brother to study there, it was big difference. They were respecting us and asking us to work for them, go to them, to their families, visiting them. And it became very easy for me and any Nubian there to live as a normal, no problem at all. No problem at all. Yes. Yes, sir.
Can you say something about the religion of the Nubian people?
Religion, yes. Nubians actually were Christians. Christianity started here in this region, as you know. And then it started in Egypt after Jesus have been moved or took to the sky, to the heaven. What happened here? Egyptians were the first people who, converted to Christianity, and those Copts start to come to our place of these ties with Copts since the beginning. So it was easy to move to this Christianity. 100% of Nubians were Christians. But when Islam came later, the same Nubians start to consider that this Islam, it's not very big difference between Islam and Christianity. In fact, Jesus in Islam is one of the most respectful persons in Quran. Not only Jesus, even his mother, Mary. A chapter in Quran, it's her name, Maryam, in that book, holy book. So it became very easy to any Christian, Muslim, Nubian to convert to Islam or accept Islam. So 85% of Nubians today are Muslim, and only 15% remain Christians. I tell you, the last thing, I'm going to finish with this. My name is Hussein Kobara. Kobara is a Christian name. We still, in our family names, we have this Christian name in everywhere, and we respect this, because this is our fathers and sisters, and we as Muslims know a big difference between Islam and Christians here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Allow me 2 minutes.
Yes. Please, this is the moment I'm waiting for.
Okay. Do we have time for that?
You want to teach you on this piece of yes?
This is a Nubian song, but in fact, we have injected Arabic words in that, so Nubian, Egyptian can understand each other. الليل الهادي يذكرني حبيبي الغايب من بدري خلاني وحيد نصيبي نحيب خلاني وحيد نصيبي نحيب سهد بعدك جناني حبيبي لا 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 يا ربي ألقاه يسعد دربي بلقياه لو فاتني يومين تبقى لي سنين لو فاتني يومين تبقى لي سنين سهد وعودك جنان حبيبي لا 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 لا
So on behalf of you all, I would love and I would like to thank Dr. Hussein very much for his valuable time. And of course, I wish the best for his family and for the whole of the Nubian society, the Nubian community, and that it will be, and actually our message is just actually to let everybody know about Nubia, and that actually you come to Egypt, and which is a history that the pottery and the jars and everything that was found in the land of Nubia, and the history of Nubia started with Reisner.
Yeah.
Reisner, he was an American professor.
Yeah.
Who was the first Nubiologist. Nubiologist in 1907, and he started actually to bring this history forth to the world. So now you know about Nubia, you can tell everybody also about Nubia, and thank you so much. And actually, I love Nubian people, and I love their pacifists. They are wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. هستناك ولا هتستناني؟
أنا هخلص الموضوع.
Lights just ringing.